One of my daughters, who shall remain nameless, has an incredible fear of wasps for whatever reason. And there are plenty of them where we're out living right now. So whenever she walks around and she sees one, she won't even say the word wasp. She'll simply, I'll say, look at the wasp, Lisa, and she'll start, oh, Lisa, I said the name. And she'll freak out, and she goes, don't even call them their name. They're the W's. They're the W's. And so we talk about that, and we share about that. So we talk about the W's. But it's interesting as you think about insects in the world, and especially hornets, wasps, bumblebees, yellow jackets. Maybe even some of you have had personal experiences with them, as I know I have too. But what I want to talk about today are actually honeybees. Honeybees are incredible insects that actually are an incredible benefit to all of humanity and have been for ever since they've been on the planet, which was from the beginning. There's some facts about honeybees I'd like to share with you. They're actually the only insect that produces a food that can be eaten by men and women. A honeybee can fly up to 6 miles and as fast as 15 miles per hour. Hence, it would have to fly around 90,000 miles, which would be 3 trips around the globe, in order to make 1 pound of honey. It takes 1 ounce of honey to fuel a bee's flight around the world. And honey itself is actually 80% sugars and 20% water. Honeybees must consume about 17 to 20 pounds of honey to be able to biochemically produce each pound of beeswax. I'm sure this is what you woke up to hear this morning. Bees maintain a temperature of between 92 to 93 degrees Fahrenheit in their central brood nest. And in fact, the worker bees, if the temperature becomes too warm, they'll all gather around in the center of the nest and flap their wings in order to cool it down. All of the worker bees are actually female, and there's only a few males that mate with the queen. That's it, about 10 to 20. But all the rest of the worker bees are female. A populous colony may contain 40 to 60,000 bees during the late spring and early summer. The queen bee lives for about 2 to 3 years, and she is the busiest in the summer months. By the way, there is only one queen bee, and in an event that the queen bee dies, there is actually a special jelly in the hive called royal jelly that is fed to one of the bees, who then becomes the queen. And so that's how that works. The queen may mate with up to 17 drones over a 1 to 2 day period of mating, and then the drones die, they're gone. The queen may lay 600 to 800 or even 1,500 eggs each day during her 3 to 4 year lifespan. Worker honeybees live for about 4 weeks in the spring or summer, but up to 6 months during the winter. The average honeybee will actually make only 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey in their lifetime. The honeybee's wings stroke 11,400 times per minute, thus making their distinctive buzz. A honeybee visits about 50 to 100 flowers in an average collection trip each day. Fermented honey, which is known as mead, is the most ancient fermented beverage. Honey stored in airtight containers actually will never spoil. There was sealed honey, the vats that were found in King Tut's tomb, that still contained edible honey, despite over 2,000 years under the sand. Keep your honey. 80% of the pollination of fruits, vegetable, and seed crops in the United States is accomplished by the honeybee. So the next time you see a honeybee, don't swat it, don't provoke it. That's the other thing about honeybee. It stings once and then it dies. So they're very precious insects and very important pollinators in our world. In fact, there was a while ago where there was actually a lack of them, and still is. And so they're an amazing, amazing creature and an amazing example to us of being industrious, of being open to what God has created us to do, not only for ourselves, but for the collective good. Be sure to fear the Lord and serve him faithfully with all your heart. Consider what good things he has done for you. We may swat them, fear them, or ignore them, but honeybees are among the gardener's best friends. Honeybees live in a highly structured, purposeful manner, with each bee knowing its role and fulfilling it, strengthening the entire hive in the process. Honeybees travel great distances for food, sometimes up to 6 miles, to support and assist the queen and help build a strong shelter for everyone. And the entire time all this activity is happening, the world outside the hive is benefiting from their work. You see, the United States alone spends billions of dollars on plants that honeybees are responsible for pollinating, and there simply is no substitute for their task. Whether they are pollinating tomatoes or potatoes, clover or flowers, honeybees are necessary to our ecosystem's very survival. Likewise, when we serve in our churches, schools, and communities, we may see ourselves as worker bees, as opposed to the queen bee. But today's verse raises an important point for worker bees to consider. When we serve, are we willing to serve no matter how menial the task? Are we eager to serve, organized and proactively thinking ahead, or do we serve only if we have the time? Are we willing to complete a job, or do we stop when our assignment gets challenging? The real issue is this: do we serve the Lord with all of our hearts? Let me ask that question again. When you serve, do you serve the Lord with all of your heart? Do you do it to the best of your ability, especially if nobody is watching? Are you doing it to the glory of God and to be a blessing as much as you can to those in your immediate midst and to the world as well? Before you swat at or run from the next honeybee you see, consider first how hard it is working for the hive, for the world, and for you. Then think about what you can learn from its example, and thank God for their reminder.